Welcome to the Lovecars on the Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiff, Needell and Paul Woodman.
Welcome to Lovecars on the Grid, your global motorsport podcast roundup. It's oh no for Lando means oh yes for Isack in Zandvoort. Ogier shows his class in Paraguay. Newgarden finally gets a win in the final Indycar race. And the playoffs for the kickoff in NASCAR, playoffs kickoff, I should say, in NASCAR. And Ingram builds his BTCC lead in Donington. But there was lots going on in Zandvoort. For a boring track, there was a lot of stuff going on. It was actually exciting. I don't know what your take was.
I say it's nice for you to come home again from your travel, so we could actually.
I'm glad to be home.
Do a
let me tell you.
podcast.
I know.
You might even get this one on Spotify as well if you get organised. You're back to the proper system again. Zandvoort. We might as well talk about Zandvoort now, but it's going, and I was going to put that at the end of the story. But a fun track to watch the cars go round with this great banked corners, But as I wrote when the track was launched, I said it'll just be another processional race and there won't be any overtaking. And another bank corner, you better dive underneath. No, you can't dive underneath, as someone tried to do, which we'll mention later, and it didn't work out, did it? And of course, the straight's not long enough, even when they've made the bank final turn so they can start their DRS exiting the final. It still wasn't enough. So it was always going to be a procession. So qualifying
It wasn't though, was it? It wasn't a procession other than first and second place.
Nobody overtook anybody. Did you see an overtake apart from one overtake we'll come to later?
a red car.
A red car overtake. There might have been some overtakes mid-pack, but no, basically, if you're on equal tyres, you weren't going to be overtaken.
That's every single track in the world. Every single track in the world now.
Get to Azerbaijan. No, there are certain circuits. Brazil, they'll be overtaking because they've got two DRSs, one after the other. Azerbaijan, because the straight is long enough. It's just they've got to stop signing off tracks with designs that aren't going to work, like Madrid. I keep on raging about Madrid. It won't work. Like the MotoGP went to Balaton in Hungary or whatever, and they can't overtake there hardly, apart from a dive bomb at a first gear hairpin. They've got to understand it's not just about the show, because one day this is going to turn around and bite them all in the bottoms when people will realise that what you're watching is a bit processional. Monaco, fine, we'll keep that because it's Monaco and it's so good, but Zandvoort, as I said, it was what a great crowd, close to the track, huge atmosphere. Yeah. But it would never have happened if it wasn't for Max Verstappen being world champion. We'd have never probably gone to Zandvoort because they haven't got much money anyway.
That's true.
But anyway, it was great to be. It is spectacular seeing those cars go around that bank corners. But in the end, it was the great Lando story. And Lando, tears. And he's sort of, I wrote down, it's amazing how close it is, because I just wrote down all the gaps in FP1. So Lando was plus 0.3. And then in FP2 is plus 0.1. And then FP3 was plus 0.2. In the first qualifying, he was a tenth and a half behind. And then in Q2, he was 1/10 in front. And then, of course, in qualifying, Oscar does what Oscar does, gets it all together and takes pole by 12 hundredths of a second.
He's a cool customer, that kid.
I know. So I straight away tweeted, of course, Oscar will get through Tarzan in the lead, Max will get past Lando, and by the time Lando gets past, he'll be 4 seconds behind, which is exactly what happened. I thought for a moment Lando might get the lead because Oscar ran wide into Tarzan, trying to fend off Max going around the outside, and Lando nearly nipped up the inside of both of them, but he didn't. And then he drops 4 seconds while he waits to get past, and then that's the race over. So you sort of sat down for what was going to be a boring hour and a half, but then all sorts of things were going on behind to keep us quite well entertained, I thought.
I thought it was an entertaining race. I get it that it is. Yeah, not exactly the most exciting for overtaking, but I thought it was quite an entertaining race. The rain put a little bit of entertainment on what was going to happen, with intrigue.
The commentators were building it up. There's going to be rain, there's going to be rain. And never really came. The only person that was affected by rain was, of course, the Ferrari entertainment, which was a lot because because Lewis made that error. It was a bit slightly drizzled on the painting on the outside of that banked Hugenholtz corner. And he just had a little snap of oversteer, overcorrected. Even the greatest talent. It's weird, isn't it? This Formula One cars now. As soon as you sort of lose grip, everybody seems to put on too much opposite lock. Which spins it the other way. We've seen great saves, like I still remember Verstappen in Barcelona. You remember going onto the straight on a restart with a massive sideways.
Incredible.
But
he did one on turn two or turn one.
Well, yeah, the start. Cool. I should have mentioned that.
Two.
Yes, yeah. Wasn't that simple? The first corners, 2 corners, because Max staying, because he still had Lando up the inside of him, didn't he? Going to the right-handed turn 2, so he just braked stupid late and big opposite lock across the grass on the apex of turn 2, and then back up the banking probably saved him there. If that had been a flat corner, the momentum when he came off the ground, braked ridiculously late because he'd been a bit on the dirt. But again, Max just got it all under control.
Max.
Yeah, Max is Max. But yeah, Lewis had this shot. I thought, Lewis. I mean, just when he was reasonably close to Leclerc and he was having a better weekend. I think he got overtaken at the start. Did he get jumped by Russell, which put him back a bit? Or I can't remember the exact who was on what, but he wasn't having the best of races.
But he seemed like he would, like you to go back. He just seemed like he was having a better weekend. Mentally, he just seemed in a better place until the race started.
Well, actually, there's a bit of a mental problem before the race started, because on approaching the grid going through the final corner, he didn't slow down for double waved yellow flags. And to add woe to his world, he's now going to Monza, the home of it. I'm sure they've got the best Ferrari engines built and made up for the best straight line speed for Monza. And he's going to be 5 places down on the grid at Monza. So he walks away from Zandvoort having a bad weekend, and now he faces a weekend where he's going to be 10th on the grid.
I'm sorry, Lewis. Lewis, that's a schoolboy error. Come on, through double wave yellows.
Then that wasn't the end of our Ferrari entertainment, of course, because then we had this. Well, first we had the battle, didn't we? The George overtake, which of course is Clarkson's on front pages. I mean, it's amazing. Jeremy Clarkson says something about motorsport. He's like front pages of the sports news. That was real racing. That was great. Well, I agree. On Twitter, I agreed. It was a very entertaining, valiant attempt by Leclerc to get by George into the stupidly tight, right-left chicane. But unfortunately, it was sadly, I'm sorry, it was against the rule book. People on Twitter say George should have been done for pushing Leclerc wide, but they're not reading the current overtaking rules that have been written because of Max trying these sort of overtaking manoeuvres. And the rule is that you have to have for the going around the outside, you must have your whole car front wheel to front wheel level at the apex of the corner. Now, the apex of the corner was a right-hander that then turned into the left. And Leclerc was still behind. And it says even if you're fully level of the apex on the outside, you must then complete the manoeuvre without going off the road on the outside. So A, he wasn't alongside turning into the right-hander, and B, he was 4 wheels off doing this wonderfully dramatic and entertaining overtake. But as the rule book goes, I'm sorry, everybody, I don't want to be a boring rule tick boxer, but great fun. But
forget wheels level and all that sort of stuff. Just the fact that he had all 4 wheels off the track. I know. He's trying to overtake on the apex, inside the apex. It's not a move that you can do.
It comes from off the track to slamming into the side of George's car, breaking his floor and ruining his aero. So it was a lot of fun, Jeremy. But I'm sorry. I mean, it's like you go to Thruxton. If you let that happen, then you go to Thruxton, you just straight line the chicane and overtake someone. You just go off the road. You can't go off the road.
Of course you can't.
Otherwise, you've got to put barriers like walls or arm cones.
They're weird. I mean, we'll come on to the Carlos one.
Put tyre stacks up, but then everyone says you can't have tyre stacks. But if they're doing a tyre stack at the
he wouldn't be doing that move if there were tyre stacks there. And we'll come on to the other one with Carlos in a moment. But it's just incredible how the stewards interpret one incident like that against another incident. It's just mind blowing because we'll talk about the Carlos one now. That he got what did he get? 5 seconds and two penalty points. 10 seconds. 10 seconds and 2 penalties.
By the rule book, he was in the wrong. So I mean, that's the trouble. I mean, it was interesting because people are looking too much at the rule book. So you think, right, I've got the rule book of the overtaking because Carlos was never ahead of
Lawson.
Going around the outside of Tarzan. He never got ahead. It was challenging around the outside. But the trouble with science is about Lawson, he'd rather have contact or risk contact, which would puncture his tyre or damage his car, than leave a bit more room and fight to the next corner. Because Lawson would be on the right-hand side for the next corner. So Sainz wouldn't have overtaken him. But, you just got that momentum out of a corner. But he closed him off. And he has that right to do it, unfortunately. Because Sainz wasn't wheel-to-wheel on the outside at the apex, he can't demand space. So the fact that by the rule book, Colapinto, not Colapinto, Lawson. Well, no, I agree. I agree with it.
Racing incident, no question at all about it. And I think, like Carlos said, I think his point was, look, drivers, and I know I've done that so many times with different drivers over the years, and drivers, and we all respect each other, but he doesn't. He just
he'd rather risk contact instead of accepting that there's a car on my outside. Then it's a great way to say, yeah, Hadjar only beat me because I was knocked out of the race by Carlos. Sainz, no. Lawson's popularity rate. I wonder how the rest of you and me both are big Lawson fans. I don't know how he's viewed around the world. It just
comes across so smugly. I don't mind his. Obviously, he's an exceptional driver, but and it's hard. He's a kid. He's He's so young, and I would have been awful at that age. But he's not blending in. He's not making himself any friends. It'd be interesting what happens at the end of this year.
Yeah. But of course, back to the Ferrari thing, the Ferrari woes that then continued, of course, when Antonelli proved that you cannot overtake on the inside of a silly. Poor old Kimi. He was having one of his better races. I know. We've criticised him. I've said he should have gone should have stayed in GP2, F2 for another year.
You know what? You were right as well. And, he's not ready. And how they can say that if they did get Max Verstappen, they would drop George over Kimi.
I don't know why. That was just rumour mongering. They never would have done that. Never. No way. But it's funny, both Ferraris crashed within 100 yards of each other. Both ended up wrecked.
I didn't know.
Yeah, one on the outside and one on the inside. So poor old Leclerc. He was already moaning about the strategy of which tyres he was being put on, and
God, they bitch and moan, don't they?
Taken out. So that really provided all the entertainment with a few safety cars and restarts and virtual safety cars. And then we just had the poor old despair of Lando, who was catching. He was never going to overtake. As much as the commentator, rain's coming on the last lap. There's going to be rain on the last lap, and all this trying to hype up a bit of artificial excitement. And I probably would as well if I was commentator. He's catching him. Yeah, she got within DRS, I think, on one lap, Lando. And then the next lap, he was 0.3 outside. Maybe Oscar put his foot down a bit more.
He said it was just the most ridiculous statement ever. He said, "Oh yeah, well, what a swing that was. If Lando, he was catching him, and if he overtook him, and there would have been a 2-point deficit, and now there's a 34-point deficit. That's how easy things can swing." He was never going to win that race.
No.
Never ever. Lando was going to win that race.
No. Yeah. Anyway, of course, then it's now, what, as you say, 34 points, and everyone's feeling that's it. It's all over. But it's not really. I mean, I think it is all over. But there's 9 races to go. And
if one DNF for
exactly,
for Oscar, and it's back exactly the same.
Well, even if we had 5 1-2s on a trot, the next 5 Lando wins, he'd be 1 point behind.
Wow.
If you head by 1 point. So you've got 5 out of the 9 races.
The only thing that's going against Lando is that Oscar's a better driver than him now.
Yes, don't mention that. I'm just trying to hype it up a bit here. There's me saying, being negative.
And I'll tell you what that is. That's all mental. I mean, what do I know? But that's a mental thing with Lando. Because he's...
Well, apparently but the pole position, they're saying, was apparently they came out of the last corner identical to the 100th. And of course, Lando had been a tenth of a second ahead. And they're saying that, I don't know which, it was a racing bull, it might have been Hadjar, I don't know, but there was a racing bull about 500 yards ahead down the straight. And apparently the tiny bit of still slipstreaming air, 500 yards behind this racing bull, just pulled Oscar forward to take it from a 10th down to a 10th up.
It's always interesting because you compare when you're racing and you compare your data, and some people are faster in, some people are faster out, some people take the apex faster, but two identical cars, very, very similar drivers.
Yeah,
maybe it was something as simple as that, or not as bizarre as that.
Great spectacle. What I liked about the change of the camera directors, they always say on a lot of those stupid tracks like Qatar, you don't know what part of the track you're on. They just go turn left, right, left, right. Despite the fact on that circuit, you'd always know where you were if they zoomed in on the car. But they pulled out quite a lot. You could see them snaking through the sand dunes. You could see 10 cars in one shot. And I always think they should do more of that. You widen out and you appreciate.
That was nice. I like that. And you get that sense of speed. You see them approaching the corner and then the braking is like whoosh. Yeah. Really good. So on the 34 points, so Crofty, I listened to the first three quarters, watched it on Sky, and then I listened to the rest on 5 Live. So I had both Harry Benjamin and Crofty, and they both said exactly the same thing. And this shows that neither of them have raced, because they both said that no driver ever wants to win a race or win a championship with your co-driver breaking down. That's never what you want to see. No driver ever. Absolute bollocks. Absolutely, exactly. In your helmet, in your car, you're giving it one of those.
Well, but I don't know the exact points at the end of the season, but Nico Rosberg only won his one title when Lewis's engine blew in Brazil. I always remember that moment. I'm not sure by the end of the season that was still a gap, but do you remember that? Because it's so a bit like Zandvoort, when Lewis's engine blew in Brazil. Everyone was sort of shocked. You're so good. You got so used to reliability nowadays.
Yeah.
You never expect the engines to fail anymore. So it was very, very similar to Lewis having one blow up in Brazil.
I'm telling you now, Oscar, the sense of relief in everything to know that Lando was out of that race.
Yeah.
The fact that he was 1.5 seconds behind. The fact that now he's pulled off 25 points difference instead of whatever it was, he would have been ecstatic. Absolute bollocks, Crofty, and you, Harry, who I love. He would have been ecstatic. He would never show that or say that.
Oh dear. Anyway, of course, all this despair for Lando gave Isack this wonderful moment, which we all enjoyed. And again, that's what motor racing does. When you get these odd results, any Formula Indycar, wherever, when the young kid gets his first podium and he done he's such a solid driver. He qualified 4th. He's the race he got the lap time in qualifying to get 4th on the grid. He held that 4th. He had Leclerc coming up the inside at Tarzan Corner about 5 times. He had George doing it as well later on. They were all looking. And funny enough, I was quite surprised. In the driver's room afterwards, he actually always gave it, although they're not going to race at Zandvoort anymore, so it doesn't really matter. But he actually started telling Max and Oscar how, do you feel that if you go a bit wide going to Tarzan, it's actually not a disadvantage. You can leave someone a bit of room inside because there's a bit of grip over a bit of camber. And Max then sort of agreed with it. It was almost like Isack was teaching the heroes a trick around turn 1.
Well, I wasn't a fan for his F2 days, how he was and how he was on the radio.
He was an angry radio man.
But fair play to him, what he's done, especially after that horrible start he had in Australia on his outlap. And it was nice to see on the podium. If you remember when Hulkenberg won, Lando won, Hulkenberg got on the podium.
Yeah.
I can't remember who, I think it was George Russell as well. I can't remember. But you remember Lando and George went on one side and were celebrating themselves, and Hulkenberg was stood there with the champagne on his own.
That's right.
And Isack Hadjar, everybody, I think everybody was just all about Isack. And there lies another suggestion to the FIA. My suggestion of giving everybody a point, even if it's just 1 point for finish 20th, that was suggestion number 1. Suggestion number 2 is drop the national anthem for the manufacturer who wins. No one cares. But your first time...
The British national anthem you're going to drop.
I don't care. So what? But for the first time ever anyone gets on a podium, play their national anthem, play it, let them feel it. Because someone like Hulkenberg will probably never, ever, ever experience that again. You imagine if he was there and played his for third place.
You want 3 national anthems now, then?
No, drop the manufacturer's one, even if it's just
3. The 3, first, second, and third. You want one each.
No, just because you might come second, you might come first. Whoever's on that podium for the first time, play their national anthem.
Oh, I see. If you're on the first, okay, so your debut podium.
Debut podium, because Hulkenberg will never get that again. You imagine if he was there with his national anthem going, it would have been unbelievable for him. But
I'm bored with that. No, I'm bored with that. Of course, Haas benefited hugely from Leclerc's crash because they've been hanging out driving. They were in the top 10, weren't they, with using the hard tyres they started on. And Ollie, of course, qualified 20th, so they put him in a pit lane. They must have changed the car a bit, which you can do if you go for a pit lane start. So Ollie came from the pit lane to 6th place, his best result. So that was a fantastic win. And Ocon was qualified 18th. He got up to 10th. So sometimes it's a bit like what happens in NASCAR and Indycar a lot, that a sudden yellow, full course yellow, can change your strategy and completely change your race. So it certainly has helped Haas with Behrman coming 6th.
But he looked like he was having a pretty average race. He didn't really look like he was doing anything. Then all of a sudden, he's in the top 10. Then he's finishing 6th.
Yeah, because they stayed out. They stayed out when everyone else pitted. Yeah. Albon, of course, the Williams rowing, apart from Sainz getting knocked out by Lawson or knocking himself out against Lawson, if you believe the stewards. Albon had a good 5th place. That's one of his best results, 5th for a long time. I'm not sure when did he ever finish in his Red Bull days? We know he lost 2 wins by being punted off by Lewis in Brazil and Austria. But I can't remember what Albon's best. He's never been on a podium, I don't think. Might have been his best ever result for Williams, which is always good to see. And Aston Martin they promised a bit, they all fell. Lance Stroll was sticking it in the barrier twice and getting his car rebuilt and then starting from the pit lane along with Ollie Behrman. But then, by doing the same as the 2 Hasses did, he changed tyres early and was out when everybody else pitted. So he ended up with 7th place out of the blue, 1 place ahead of Alonso, who's being his usual drama queen over the radio about strategies and stuff. And Yuki 9th. Yuki got 2 points.
Top 10. Wow.
But he was still half a second slower than Max. I mean, it's a short track, let's face it, Zandvoort, so the gaps are narrower.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
He missed Q1. He was 11th, I think, wasn't he? Q2. So he missed Q3 and when he was a half a second slower. So I can't see him being that. The only trouble is why they're not so threatened, him and Lawson, is there aren't that many people queuing up. Everybody's... Red Bull talking about they're putting the British driver in. Names, come on, names. I know him very well. The British driver with the Swedish name. But Lindblad. I know Red Bull, they're all saying Lindblad's going to be in one of those 4 seats, but I still don't think he's actually done enough, and he might be a bit too hard to... If they can't get to... Everyone's denying the Palau word, which would be wonderful.
Oh, I'd love to see it.
I know. So it's goodbye from Zandvoort and goodbye for Zandvoort, which is... It's a shame. It's a lovely track. If they'd had the old track, and I raced around it, the Formula One car, the British Formula One Championship, I raced around it. I Formula Ford slipstreaming battles, where if you overtook at the beginning of the straight, you'd get re-overtaken for the end of the straight. It was such a huge, long straight. And it was a wonderful circuit. I've got so many great memories.
So Oscar obviously won. Max won a couple of times and Lando won a couple of times. Who was the person that won before them?
When the track shut? Alain Prost or Nicky Lauda or someone?
Nicky Lauda. Yeah.
Back in 85? When did they shut it? I raced
82, I think. It might have been 85. I thought it was 82, but I'm not sure.
I raced British Formula One. 79, I was racing around the full circuit in a Formula One car. And it was a fabulous.
But people love to go, especially club racing. The Caterham boys go there because you're right on the seaside. It's so unusual with the banking as well.
Yeah, but that's club racing. It's a good track.
I know, exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I mean. Is completely different.
Anyway, so bye-bye, Zandvoort.
Well done, Isack Hadjar. First podium of many, I would say.
And it's hello to a brand new rally. World Rally Champions went to Paraguay as Holland loses its Grand Prix. And the stages look excellent.
Oh, they're bloody nuts, those boys. Oh, some of those fast stages where they're on the rev limiter and they're just and they're jumping over the. Oh, it's crazy.
But Sébastien Ogier, who's now announced he's not going to be part-time, but the part-time Toyota driver has now decided he does want to win a 9th title to match Sebastian Loeb's 9th title. So he's only got 8. So he's now seen as a door open. But on stage 2, he had a puncture. It was a bit of puncture-fooled lottery again. So many drivers lost a minute or 2 minutes.
Can I just say that I take full credit for that? I spoke to him in Sardinia and said, you need to take this 9th title. I genuinely did.
It's you.
I genuinely did. I take credit for this.
What did he say?
I did it. He listened intensely. No, he did. No, he did. He's such a cool character. But I said, what? You can rewrite history here. You literally can rewrite history. Do it full time for a season or 2.
You encouraged him to yet again ruin Elfyn Evans' British dreams. That's your fault that we might not have a British world champion.
Elfyn.
But so he had a puncture on stage 2 and he dropped 36 seconds and went down to 8th place. And then just began this comeback. I mean, he won 8 out of the next 13 stages to end Saturday day 2 with a 10-second lead. Just a masterclass. Almost fell foul of the last stage of the whole rally on Sunday when it rained really heavily just in the middle, and he was the last car out. So he had the worst conditions, but he had a big enough lead to hang on to win by about 10 seconds. But the battle behind was just frantic. Evans had run sort of 5th and 6th all rally. He's going to have another poor result. And all of a sudden, just the last 2 stages, he came good, did a really good final stage. And he actually got 2nd out of the blue from 5th. But he was 2nd, 26 seconds behind Ogier. Then in 3rd was Fourmeau, wasn't it? It was 27 seconds behind. No, 3rd wasn't. It was Neuville, 27 seconds behind. 4th was Fourmeau, 28 seconds behind. And Tanak was 5th, 30 seconds behind. So 2nd to 5th was covered by 4 seconds after 3 days of rain and punctures. And unfortunately, Rovanperä had a puncture on the last day, which he wasn't able to really pick up the pace from. He finished 6th. But there was a bit more shenanigans. I don't think it was deliberate because Fourmeau finished 3rd, who had been running 2nd. He was really challenging Ogier more than anyone in his Hyundai. When he had a puncture on, I think, the penultimate stage and dropped back, and then he had more. But he went through a water splosh and he drowned out his car a bit and nearly died. But they retired him before, because once they finished the rally, then they have to drive on the road to your final checkpoint.
Yeah.
So you've got to get back to base. But they retired his car on the way to base because Paraguay and the next rally, which is Chile, they're a twinned event. So you can't change your engine or your gearbox without a penalty. And so they were worried about his car. So they withdrew him from the results. So he didn't finish 4th overall. But that actually gave Tanak and Rovanperä a place up each, which gave them more points to help close down the battle for the title, where Evans still leads, but by 9 points to Ogier, who's no points ahead of Rovanperä. Ogier and Rovanperä tied on points. And they're both 11 points ahead of Tanak. So 4 rounds to go, and that really is boiling up. And if Ogier wins it, I'm going to phone up Elfyn and tell him where you live. Who suggested that he stay on?
Elfyn's only 26. He's got years to come. Can you believe he's only 26? Feels like he's been around.
Yeah.
He's been around for years, it feels like.
Well, he's come 2nd in the World Championship about 8 times. So maybe it's only 3 or 4. But... Oh, our hearts go out for Elfyn. He always looks
36. He's 36. I can't read. He's
wrong.
36.
Surprising.
Idiot. He looks 26.
He's always leaning forward with the mouth wide open, gasping for air, pumping up and down the gears. It is spectacular, but it's these punches that were driving me mad as a rally driver. They all said I was in the middle of the road and they don't know why I didn't hit anything. Who knows?
See, that is the thing, is that you need a bit of luck in rallying.
Yeah. I'd have wild cards. I've told you this before. Every time you have a puncture, there should be some sort of way of being given a certain time that's not a minute for stopping and changing. They don't stop and change, Mark, because the stages are reasonably short, 15 miles or 12 miles.
They'll just keep going.
They just keep going. Yeah. So, spectacular stuff in Paraguay. Over in America, IndyCar.
Where was it?
Last race of the year around this oval in where were they? I forgot what they were now. Not Milwaukee. They moved on from Milwaukee, so they went to where's the oval was it? I can't remember which track it was. Anyway, it's a 1 1/3 mile oval. I remember that. And they're going around at 200 miles an hour, and it's just breathtaking. I think it was quite processional for a lot of it, because there's not a lot of side-by-side racing because they're doing 200 miles an hour around a 1 1/4 mile, 1 1/3 mile oval. But there were some side-by-side moments. The start of the race, Christian Rasmussen had won the previous round in Milwaukee, super first ever IndyCar win, was the first to retire when he stuck it into the wall at turn 1. Because again, they were a bit like when we talk about NASCAR, the same problems when someone did the same thing in NASCAR, but they run lower pressures to start, as low as you can, because they want to heat up, and so you've got less grip at the back. So you put it in the wall, turn 1. But then I think when they had the restart, it felt like Alex Palou and Pato O'Ward was on pole in his McLaren. It felt like 10 laps, just side by side, with about an inch or 2 inches between their tyres. And the guy on the inside gets a 2 feet ahead dive boom into the corner, and then they both stay flat out. The one on the outside has a bit of a momentum and creeps back, and they go into the next turn. It's breathtaking stuff. You're sort of terrified to see it happen. But it's quite a long race. It gets a bit drawn out. But in the end, there was this great battle. Alex Palou got into the lead. He had a puncture early on. There was another puncture. Then the front right was wearing out the speeds. Obviously, too much camber gives you more grip, and depends how much your engineer dares risk your car. But Palou had a puncture, but managed to get to the pits without hitting anything. But Pato O'Ward had pretty much dominated. He had a puncture big time and just slammed the wall. So that put O'Ward out, which left Palou then leading Newgarden and the 2 Penske boys, Newgarden and Scotty McLaughlin. And again, there were some great battles going on, but Newgarden finally got round Palou to win the race. His first win of the year, only the second American to win the whole season. But McLaughlin had this amazing...
No way! There's only 12 races in the season anyway, isn't it? 11 or 12?
No, more than that, probably.
Is there?
I can't count them.
Why is the season finished already?
I don't know. They do 6 months of racing and they stop. But McLaughlin in the other Penske had this battle with this relative rookie, second season driver, Kiffin Simpson, who's in a Palou teammate car, a Ganassi car. So a good car. And the thing about the ovals, if you give a good driver a good car, it's amazing how you can keep the pace. But McLaughlin was trying to get past him, and they just did laps. And this, you're on the outside of a relative rookie who's only finished on the top 3 once in his life, in his second year of IndyCar racing. And you have to trust him not to just slide up 2 inches, because you're the one on the outside pinning him down as much as you can. And he actually got third place off Kiffin out of the last corner, the last lap. He just went round the outside and hung on the throttle flat out. So it was an exciting end, but quite a long, drawn-out middle. The other whole thing about the story was that, of course, we had this rookie, Louis Foster, going for the rookies title, which is something Palou's never won. And, of course, it's something you can only win in your first season of IndyCar.
Of course, yeah.
And he went into the last round leading the championship from one of the Prema boys, Robert Schwartzman. But then the Rahal cars, they weren't on the pace. He qualified about 18th, and he was struggling like mad and struggled. And he started getting lapping. And this kid, David Malukas, who's in Foyt, I think he's in AJ Foyt's team. He's been rumoured to go to Penske next year in place of Power. And Malukas was coming out to lap him. And sort of, you don't have to let people by when you're being lapped. But once the leader's lapped you, Malukas was running second, I'm pretty sure it was second, you sort of then give up a bit. You'd fight the leader like mad, not to be lapped, not to go a lap down. But he was going up to turn 1, and he was on the inside, and Malukas went the outside. And for some reason, Louis sort of swerved up a bit, as if to say, I'm coming back to take the racing line into the turn. But Malukas hung around the outside, contact was made, Malukas was in the wall, big time. Not really helping that everyone loved Louis. So Louis was then given a drive-through penalty. So then his rookie championship has gone because Rasmussen's running in the top 9 really well. The Prema boys were both in the top 10 running towards the flag. And then for some reason on a restart, Schwartzman decided to block Ferrucci. Ferrucci was trying to take 8th place off him. And the trouble is, we see the way Formula 1 drivers do it, and Formula 3, you grow up in Europe, And if someone starts overtaking you, or that you give them a bit of a move, block them, you're not coming through that side. And this was with like 2 laps to go. And he would have won the rookie title. But he then got a drive-through penalty for blocking Ferrucci. And Louis Foster said, "Thank you very much. I am the rookie champion." So a little late drama in the rookie title points.
17 races in an IndyCar season, and
17.
it was finishes at Big Machine Music City Grand Prix at the Nashville Speedway.
That was
Super
Nashville,
Speedway.
of course. Nashville, yes, because you win a guitar. The Nashville.
Oh.
But exciting. But I think if you're at an IndyCar race, it would be better than if you're watching on telly. If you're sitting in a grandstand watching things go past you at 200 miles an hour, round and round, you're going to have a bit of the fear of how fast they're
naturally
going.
aspirated V8s?
Yes. And I think they've got a bit of hybrid, haven't they, now? They all throw a bit of hybrid now, just a bit.
It must be, because you got the likes of Honda and stuff.
Yeah, well, they're the ones wanted. It was only Honda and Chevy. It's only 2 engines. They hope to get a 3rd engine to open up for the next years to come, but it hasn't happened yet. Then, of course, in America, with NASCAR, the playoffs began. The 16
What's happening with
it's all kicking
Just
off.
remind us who's through quickly.
No, I can't. 16. So that was 14
big
winners.
Names.
So
big
so
names
far,
that aren't in there. Who's not in there that should be?
none of the big names.
Okay.
Except, Kyle, the other Kyle.
Busch.
He's not in it. So the 16 amongst, obviously, all 40 cars are racing every weekend, but the 16 racing by titles that have either 14 won a race to get there, the 2 on points went through, which was Tyler Reddick was the leading points one that hasn't won a race all year. But anyway, turn 1, again, as I said, like the IndyCar race, Josh Berry, who's made it through to the playoffs, then dumps it in turn right in the middle of the pack. And luckily, he did a 180 spin, and he stayed up near the wall, so most of the pack went, and then he came down across the track by the time most of the midfield, and so they all avoided him incredibly. But Berry bashed his car, and he's now at the bottom of the 16 with 2 rounds to go to get up where the best 12 go through. So Josh Berry ruined his day at turn 1. It was then all quite processional, lots of stuff, but it was dominated all the way through by Chase Briscoe, the Toyota, pretty much led the front of the pack even after every restart. But it was interesting because he was chased by Tyler Reddick in another Toyota. Tyler's never won a race all season. He finished 2nd. And of course, by winning, Briscoe is now through to the 12. So now there's 15 people fighting for to be in the last 12. Shane Van Gisbergen, we've been following, of course. Shane upset the NASCAR boys in a way because he won 4 road course races or 2 street courses. It was 3 or 4, wasn't it? So he won his way through into the last 16 by being a winner. And by winning, you get bonus points. He actually started with so many extra bonus points for being winning, like 9 points or 20 points. I've no idea how many. So I think he was about 5th in the standings, but he had a pretty poor, he's not good on ovals, and his car was bad. And he finished 32nd. So after one of the 3 rounds to go from 16 to 12, he's dropped to 12th. And
so what? One of these is only 16 in this, but they still race a full field.
Yeah. So the racing goes on as normal. So it's all. So I think Joey Logano's 13th at the moment, the reigning champion. So I doubt if Shane's going to get through. The exciting thing about Shane, if he could hang on by having reasonable oval results, because the first 3 races are all ovals. There's a road course in the 12 down to 8, which he'd probably win. So he would get through to the last 8. But I don't think he's going to get through to the last 12, to be honest. But anyway, entertaining stuff. It's every night for the next, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, how many we got left to go?
Every weekend.
Every weekend, isn't it? It's amazing. How many to go then? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds, and then there's the final on November the 2nd. So plenty to keep motorsport fans interested as winter comes and the rain falls. Then back home, there was rain falling, of course, back home at Donington, BTCC. And amazing, there was a bit of a weather mix-up in qualifying. There's a bit of rain and showers, and because they also have the Q1, Q2, Q3 system now. And amazingly, there were 6 out of the 10 that got through to the Q3 were all Hyundais. It's a Hyundai weekend. Whereas at Knock Hill, you remember the first 3 on the grid were BMWs. So it's becoming a very car track specific thing, which I don't like. They shouldn't be that sort of suit one car more than the others. But of course,
what do you do about it if one's longer, tighter turns, or
shorter wheelbase suits some tracks,
shorter wheelbase, rear wheel drive, front wheel drive?
Yeah, but it didn't happen. The others came forward more. The Fords came forward. Fords came forward in the races, but despite not having help from his teammate, it was Tom Chilton got pole, but Chilton had that's the teammate of Ingram's teammate. So Ingram was on the front row with Chilton. They pulled away straight away at the front. Chilton let Ingram by to get the point you get for leading a race, but it was agreed that you can't give a win away. Maybe the Fords at Knock Hill were giving Sutton second and a third instead of a third, but it was agreed that he could win his win, and he won the race. Unfortunately, he got fastest lap, Tom, so he took a point off of the potential point for Ingram for fastest lap. Because he had more boost, so he was doing more boost laps than Ingram could. So it was a good win for Tom Chilton. Ingram was second. The second race, they're all up the front, but there was this rain show. Amazing. Dan Camish was leading, and a one caught up the top.
It was crazy.
An interesting.
There was 6 cars off on one corner or something.
The interesting thing about it, in a way, was we all talk about gravel traps or tarmac runoff, because tarmac runoff got more and more popular because a car would slow more and it wouldn't roll over, and you could come out of gravel. Come out of tarmac and continue a race. Whereas gravel, of course, you're in it, and then you have to have a safety car and everything else.
Safety car, yeah.
But in a way, it enabled them to turn, because they all ploughed straight on, aquaplaning off the track. And if they just aquaplaned onto more flooded tarmac, the steering still wouldn't have responded. But because they had the lock-on in gravel, it turned them. And so they all sort of got sideways in the gravel and carried their momentum to go out of the gravel. Nobody ended up in the gravel. Incredibly, none ended up stuck there. It was a bizarre-looking sight. They're all coming back on the track from all sorts of different places. But Dan Camish won that one. But then Ingram won the reverse grid race quite easily, because being chased by Sutton, but Sutton then was on the hard tyre. He'd run the softs in the first 2, or the mediums, the softer one. So Ash only got a 4th and 8th and a 2nd in the reverse grid race, dropped 15 more points. It actually doubled Ingram's lead.
Is it a done deal?
Well, pretty much. He's 32 points ahead now with 2 rounds to go.
Yeah.
So it's looking good for Tom, but you never know. The thing about the touring car race, if you get biffed in race 1 and you're out, and you start 20th in race 2, race 2, if you don't get in the top 10, you're unlikely to get reverse grid pole. So actually, if you get retired in race 1, you can have a huge points disaster. So they're not over.
He's very consistent, though. I know stuff happens, but Tom Ingram's very, very consistent.
Ingram and Oscar are feeling much happier than Lando and Ash right now. So that was an entertaining weekend. Formula One, of course, we continued at Monza with the battle. Again, the overtaking into the chicane will be the way to go. A bit of DRS that does work at Monza. We get overtaken there, but there's a stupid chicane at the turn 1, which could cause anybody, Oscar or anybody, to be retired at turn 1, as it's a stupid corner. Formula 2 and Formula 3, the final round of the Formula 3. I meant to look up the championship standings in Formula 3. I don't think the title's settled yet. So F1, F2 and 3 at Monza. The World Sports Cars, the World Endurance Championship, head to COTA in America, which should be good racing around that nice long Grand Prix track. NASCAR boys at the Gateway, 1.25 mile oval. Back home, the Pro Bike British Rally Champ, Aberystwyth. If you're in Aberystwyth in Wales, go watch some rally cars this weekend, the British Championship. But also bikes everywhere. Bikes, MotoGP at Barcelona, World Superbikes at Magny-Cours in France, and British Superbikes at Donington. So a lot of choice for bikers this weekend. You can go to France, Spain, or Donington.
Good.
And that's about it.
So I was trying to be clever and look at the Formula 3 standings. F3, yeah. But it just comes up with their abbreviation. and I don't know half the names. Cam Boy, TSO, TRA, STE,
Oh no, I think
STR.
he's already won it. That Brazilian's boy's already. Kamara's already won.
He has. Yeah,
I
Kamara's
forgot.
won it.
Yeah, Kamara's
156.
won it. Yeah. So there's no title to be decided in Monza after all.
But it's all to play for second place between Boy and TSO. Who would they be?
TSO's a Japanese boy, Soba Tsuzuba, I think. No, he's a.
How silly they've got their abbreviations.
I know when
site.
they're not that famous. I know.
Yeah.
So is I think he's an Eastern Bloc. I don't know, Yugoslavian Czech. Sobi. So who's that? A Boya. It's Boya. It's a Spanish boy who's second.
Okay. I was going to look, but we're it's not that exciting.
They've all switched off by now. It's no good. Cheerio.
See you next week. Bye.